Morning, Brendan.
Good morning.
Can you just bring us up to date with the injury situation? Everybody okay at the moment?
Yeah. At the moment, we similar squad to what we had last weekend.
We continually see reports of some of your players obviously being linked with possible moves away from the club. Barini, Balotelli, Enrique, Leva. To what extent do you expect that there might be some movement in terms of players possibly leaving the club before the window shuts?
Listen, it's natural at this stage of the season. There'll be moves, I'm sure, for some players. I think what's clear is that every player is of the understanding exactly where he stands within the squad. The spirit's strong, the spirit's fine, but of course it's a difficult situation because of the transfer market, and it's still open until the end of this month. So there's always going to be that speculation, but I'm sure there will be some movement of some of the players that obviously want to play.
We've had a few managers this week saying that they prefer it if the window perhaps shut before the season starts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've always said that. I would agree with that totally. I've always felt that there's obviously a sport issue, but there's a moral issue as well. Whenever the season starts and players are unsure where they stand and where they're at, and it's obviously a very, very difficult time for players. And I think you see everything settle within squads once the window is shut, because people can then focus on their professional life and their life with their families as well.
After the first game last week, there was a bit of a consensus of opinion that maybe you were playing with perhaps a more slightly direct style. Perhaps is that fair? Is that the shape of things to come, or are you happy to try and mix things up as the season goes?
I think I said last time I spoke, it was about the unpredictability of our game. I think anyone who knows me well and knows me well enough knows that I have a way of working that won't change. I have an inherent belief in terms of that, but I'm not dogmatic in my approach. I'm very much about finding the ways to win, finding the different solutions in the game. And if a team presses you high, and then at times you need to go out over the top of that press, or you go around the press, however which way to win the game. So what we've done this summer is brought in good players that can give us that variety, because sometimes you may want to work that way, and if a team's pressing you high and you want to go in over the top of the press, you might not have the type of player or the profile of player that can help you do that. So for me, we've had a good summer in terms of bringing in players that gives us all types of ways to work, but the core principles and the ideas are fundamentally the same, and in how I work, that doesn't change.
And in Eddie Howe, is there something of a kindred spirit there?
He's a good guy, Eddie. I've got to know him over a number of years, and he's very much again inherent in his belief in how he wants his teams to play, and he's done an incredible job at Bournemouth. And a game like coming to Anfield is why they've worked so hard. They find now that every game in the Barclays Premier League is a cup final, whereas before, when you work in the Championship or League One or League Two, when you play against a Premier League team, there's a real buzz around the stadium, and he will find that obviously every game is that now. So they've worked hard to get promoted. He and his squad thoroughly deserve it. The club deserve it, and coming to Anfield is what makes it special. They're coming to one of the most iconic grounds in world football, and this is something that is that they'll see and look forward to. But he's a good guy. He's done a great job at Bournemouth, but he knows he'll want to ensure that they stay in the league this season.
Brendan, Roberto Firmino scored a hat-trick in a practice match early in the week. Just wondering how close he is to a start now, in your thinking.
Yeah, he's building up his fitness really well. He's a guy that he helps himself because he trains to the maximum every single day. So he's coming along very, very well. Good guy as well. Every aspect of the life over here, in Liverpool, he's thrown himself into both football, language. He's working very, very hard. So for him, he's getting very, very close.
Danny Ings played and scored in that game as well after coming so close to a debut at Stoke. Monday would seem ideal for him to make a first appearance at Anfield and against his former team as well.
Yeah, I think for all the players that I've explained and recognised that between now and the end of the month, it can be difficult, because if you've only got one game a week and the team is winning, there may be very little change. So it's difficult for the players. And obviously once the international break is done, then the games come thick and fast. So it's important for us to prepare the players as best we can, and if they're not playing, we get them games behind closed doors to maintain and improve their fitness level. So for the likes of Danny and the other players, they had that game. It was a good game for them. And for the likes of him, he's settling in very well into his life here.
How much are you looking forward to returning to Anfield yourself? It's obviously 3 months since the last game. There's been a lot of change down there as well with all the redevelopments. Yeah,
well, we took the players, we trained there last night. Felt it's important for the new players and the new staff to acquaint themselves with Anfield, and they know how special it is. But yeah, they trained well last night, and obviously we're looking forward to the game on Monday. It's a real special place to play football, Anfield, and for us, it's going to be very, very important again for us, if we're going to have a good season, that our home form is second to none. So, and a big part of that is the support that we receive at home. So we're looking forward to the game.
Just finally for me on John Flanagan, you touched on him last week about his injury comeback. He's been putting a lot of pictures up recently of his rehabilitation. Is he ahead of schedule of what you first thought of getting back into action?
No, I think he's on time, and everything's going to plan. That was the key thing for John. But as you say, he's working very, very hard to get back sooner. So, but we don't want to put any pressure on him. He's a very talented young player. The most important thing is that he rehabs well and gets back fit and into the first team, and that's the main aim for John.
Brendan, I know you've spoken before about engendering that team spirit within the squad this season. With so many new players for the second summer running, is there any way that you try and galvanise the team? Do you have any set way of doing it, or is it just a case of it evolving as the season goes on?
It's finding a common cause for the players to fight for. I think that's important. Again, the players that come in are good people, and they want to work well here at Liverpool, and there's obviously ways. Myself and the coaching staff will always find ways in order to do that. I think it's any successful team, you will find that the spirit is strong, and that's something that's key for us. So a lot of that work is done on the training field. That's when you build your team spirit, your work, and you're winning in training. And then of course you'll do other social bonding activities, which again get the opportunity for the players and staff to get to know each other better as well. So but the main bulk of that work is done on the training field and creating a cause for the players to fight for.
And the likes of Moreno and Markovic, who came in 12 months ago, they now find themselves, at least based on the first game of the season, a little bit on the periphery. Is essentially this moment in time a chance for you to survey their character and how they respond to that?
Well, both players are very talented players. Clearly it's why they've come to here. They're both good players, and maybe for the first time in their footballing careers, especially being so young, that they will find themselves maybe not being a regular. Certainly that was maybe the case, but they know very well with the conversations that we've had that it's a long season, it's a tough season, and that they will certainly be needed. And it's just about when the opportunity comes that you take that opportunity and you keep yourself in the team. There's no player here that, as I said, hasn't been told that. So they're fighting and working well, and when the opportunity comes to play, then I'm sure they'll both be ready.
Brendan, Joe Gomez had a really impressive debut last week, and he's been really good since he joined the club. Do you see him even now as a permanent fixture in the side, or because of his younger years, you're going to have to sort of take him out of the side now and again?
I think it's just about assessing it and managing, where he's at. I felt comfortable. He'd obviously played games and he was managed very well at Charlton. I think he had 16 starts, but he's come into here, and I wanted to assess, like I do with all the players, and in particular young players, to see where their pathway lies. And it was maybe a case of bringing him in, thinking, does he need a loan or does he need to stay here? And very quickly showed me that he can be a really, really important member of our squad here. can play in a few positions, centre half being his main one, but he's got the flexibility and the qualities to play at fullback. So he's definitely, you know, a player that, you know, will add great value to our squad. And like you seen last week, up against a really tough opponent, you know, for a young player of 18 years of age to make his Premier League debut away at Stoke against an outstanding player and Jonathan Walters, with the experience that he has, and to cope as well as he did. I spoke to Jonathan Walters after the game and thanked him for giving him that experience, but he spoke well of him as well, and knew he was a tough opponent to play against.
And what sort of character is he? How's he reacted to that debut? Is he very much a young player who keeps his feet on the ground?
Yeah, he's 18 years of age, but what struck me when I first met him was the maturity within him. He's a very humble boy. You know, he recognises the opportunity. I think when you look at where he was at when he was 15, 16, he had the chance to move to so-called bigger clubs than Charlton, but his feet was very much grounded. He wanted to stay and felt he would have a better chance of getting into the first team, and he stayed at Charlton, and that's exactly what he did. He then had a decision to make in the summer. A number of high-profile clubs wanting to take him, but he felt his best opportunity to develop and improve as a player was coming to Liverpool, and he's done that. He's got into the team, and I'm sure there'll be moments along the way where we need to manage him, but at the moment he's enjoying it, and but knows there's a lot to learn yet.
What do you see as being the key to your home form this season? Because it was, say, a little bit different last season. Have you had a chance to sort of assess what happened last season? And
I think it's building confidence early on is important. I think that that's key in it. You know, it's getting the vibrancy around the stadium again, and the level of football, and obviously winning. And if you can do that early on, that creates the confidence, and it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing this team evolve with again this season. It's so important for your home form if you're going to succeed, and that's the aim for this season.
have you had a chance to look back on what happened last season and maybe tweaking it, maybe a different approach for this season, or does it stay the same?
Yeah, not really. No, you of course you want to learn and you review, but the main attribute is confidence. That's the key facet of it all. You know, if you've got confidence, and that'll give you the success. You know, and that confidence will come from working hard and getting victories at home. It's as simple as that. So our aim and intention in every game is to be on the front foot at home. We are a team that we want to dominate. So that will always be the case, in particular at home.
Yeah, just wanted to ask you a couple of quick questions about your old mate Mark Warburton. Obviously, you've taken the top job in Scotland now in many ways. I mean, what do you remember him as a character? What sort of a person is he?
Mark Warburton?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark's a really good guy. I first came across Mark when I was manager at Watford, and Mark was the academy director at Watford, and excellent knowledge of the game. He'd obviously worked in different fields as well, so he's got a bigger picture other than football. But he was an excellent coach, very good man manager, worked well with players, and it was great to see him go on and get the Brentford job. I spoke to him towards the end of last season, and of course it was a difficult situation for him, but I thought he handled it exceptionally well, and I know that the players would really enjoy working with him. So he's obviously gone to Scotland, and he'll see when he arrives there. Of course, if he didn't know, that Rangers is a huge club with huge expectation, and I'm sure he'll work very well there.
Having stepped into a big job yourself like Liverpool, what sort of advice would you pass on to him for being able to deal with it?
Well, you've got to go in and you've got to be really focused, and you can't think too much. I think it's important, which I'm sure he will have done, to understand the great history of the club. I think you have to really do your work in terms of the background of a club, what it represents and what it stands for, and then you know that you're the guy that's then leading and carrying the hopes of all the supporters. But within that, you obviously have to focus on your job, which is to coach the team, prepare the team and win games. If you can do that, that can galvanise a club and as I said, can pull everyone together.